So today we're going to talk about navigation, because navigation skills are very important for preppers and survivalists. Yeah, you want to know how can I get to safer areas? Where is inhabitant if you get lost during the hiking, or just even on the countryside where it could be difficult. There are several ways to tricks that you can learn where the north is and such, or how to navigate around based on what you can see, and other ways. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Why? Because yeah, during a bug out, you need to know where you're going. If you have a bug out location or an evacuation point, it's very important that you uh, make the trip as short as possible. Yeah, because you're in a bug out situation, or you're lost in the woods or whatever it is. If you are in that situation, you have limited supplies and you do not want to be lost, get those supplies drowned, and then you need to find other ways to survive while finding your way back, or finding your some safe zone. So you do not want that to happen. Yeah, and also because of perhaps there is some time periods involved, or time limit, but whatever it is. um, Navigation skills are something that we kind of lost, because people 40 years ago all knew how to read a map, but now everything is pointed with GPS and such. So, and with a smartphone, and everything is calculated through machines, we lost that skill to navigate on our own or by reading a map. So I'm going to talk about ways to, how do you say this, to learn to navigate and try to train yourself with it. Um, let's first talk about how can you train for this. I would suggest, try to, what you can do is you can take one of those military manuals about map reading, and you can try to learn how to use the skills of reading a map, or other ways by looking at the looking at the stars, to find the pole star and constellations, to learn how to navigate in the night, because that's also important. There is not always daylight, or you do not always have a compass to navigate. So even at night, you need to know where the north is. You can do this by finding to learn about the constellations. First of all, try to learn some skills from this book, because navigating is more difficult than you would assume. There are so many things you need to calculate in. It's not just, oh, I just go that direction, I will. No, you must try to predict, calculate obstacles, the levels that and the heights that the path might have, because there's a big difference if you walk on a straight, flat surface, or in a more hill or mountainous areas. It can be a difference of several days, and with limited supplies, that could become very dangerous. So that's one way you need to calculate, and that's where this manual is very handy in. Um, like I said before, with the constellations, it's, if you have trouble with learning it, of being taught by somebody who knows it, that's a good way to learn it. But if you want to learn it yourself, this is one of those star discs. What is this? Depending on the hemisphere that you are, on the time of the year, and the month, this thing is, if you can see, these are all the constellations that you will see in certain points. What you do is you take the disc, you put this around, and that way you can keep it in front of you. And depending on the day of the year, you can turn the disc, and that way, if you, let's say that we are now, what day are we? We are March now. So let's take March. We are the 5th, and I'm here at midnight. Let's say somewhere. I will keep this in front of me. I'm at the right time, at the right hour, and that way, if I pull this out, that way, what I now going to see upstairs is the constellations that are placed on this disc. So that's actually a handy way to navigate and to learn to navigate with something like this. So that's a very useful learning tool, I would say, just like the map. All right. What do you need else? Maps. Of course, gonna need maps. Yeah. So what kind of maps? Because there are several different maps. We going. I'm just going to take whatever lies on top. This is one of those tourist maps that tourists in how do you say this, in certain counties can get free if they go by bike or by foot, or in certain hotels, motels, hostels. And it is just a small, like you can see, it's a very simple map of just a county, but that's something very handy to just to learn to for even for a bug-in situation, you can learn how to navigate around your own county. It's a free thing. It's very small. It fits in your pocket for to try to if you find walk around in your county and you find an interesting spot like a water source or a certain tree with certain fruits or something, or a place where there is a lot of rabbits, for example, you can take one of these and you can try to mark it, and that way it's very handy to during a bug-in to find to have a list of places where you or somebody else can go to find some natural resources. So that's very handy because navigation is not only for a bug out, it can also be for a bug in. Let's go from big to small. That is one of the. Oh, no, wait, let's take this. That is a map of Belgium. This is just a total map because yeah, mostly it's just cities and villages and the more bigger roads that are on it. But you will find this in cars and yeah, this can be handy if you have to travel to a certain long point for see further ahead to avoid perhaps crowded city centers, industrial zones and such, or waterways and highways. So this is some good way if you have a bug out vehicle to navigate around and to avoid certain areas that could be stopped by traffic's possible checkpoints or by yeah, because everyone goes on that big road. So that's a good way to perhaps use it for detours. Just a map of Belgium. You have something smaller. This is more for you can have several maps of several counties. This is from East Flanders. Yeah, that way that is more a more detailed map with even smaller streets and such, and more smaller places and perhaps some natural things or big monuments that are on it. So that's something also handy. It's more in depth, but it's handy to have something in a big scale and something in a smaller scale. Now we're going to an even smaller scale. Um, it is something they call a topical graphical map. Yeah, it's these are all folded. Will not open these up because otherwise it cannot fit in the screen. But if you perhaps can see, this is a very in-depth map. You can see almost everything. Even every house is pointed on this thing. Every natural sources, what kind of woods there are, with what kind of trees. Every waterway, farmers' fields. It's very in-depth, and that's also the problem with this map. It only shows the names of the villages and nothing more in depth, unlike the other cards that I showed. So this is very good to have a more sense of naturality because it also sets the heights of the area, so you can calculate what the angle will be where you will be walking, or if it's more handy to go through a waterway, what kind of bridge, even bridges, tunnels. These are all showed on this kind of map. It will take more skill to navigate with these because, yeah, like I said, it only shows the village names and not the streets and perhaps some names of some roads, but not all roads. So I would advise to get especially one of these maps if you're in a bug-in situation. It shows every natural resource you can think of actually. What also is handy about these maps is because even the routes for walkers and bicyclists are on this, and that's what I'm going to where this could be in handy. This is a manual distance counters. Yeah, because you do not always have your cell phone or GPS with you for calculating a route, or perhaps it's difficult. You cannot. You have problems with batteries like I would have. This thing is very handy. It's from my grandfather, and it still works perfectly. So, which I cannot say from cell phones, which is a point ahead. This will convert everything from inches to miles, from centimeters to kilometers, and even nautical miles, statute miles, and just kilometers. So this is very handy to, even if you're in you have a different metric system or the imperial system. And what you do is you would, if you can perhaps can see, if you want to say I'm going from point A to point B, but you can with just a measurement how do you say stick, you can just calculate directly, but that's not always realistic. Every road goes in bows and up, so that could be difficult. So what you do is you go from point, if you perhaps can see, you go from point B, and you, let's say we're going along the river with where the bicyclists usually go. You just go the other way, and that way you can even with the smallest things you can go around. Yeah, this kind of fast to be doing, but you can turn. You can keep turning with this. So let's see how much it is. So this was 20 centimeters. So depending on the scale of the map, you can now calculate how much 20 centimeters would be. So what kind of map is? I forgot to look at it. Let's see. 1 centimeter is here 20,000 centimeters. So 20 miles, 20,000 centimeters. I'm kind of bad at math. 20 by 20 is 400,000 centimeters, which is like I think it's I'm bad at math, but I think it's 4 kilometers. The route that I went, even with all the little detours and circlings. So that's a fast way to calculate how much time you will spend and you will take, because if you calculate that you with your gear above you have an average speed of 5 kilometers an hour, so it's like 4 kilometers. So you can say I would put that distance between in 50 minutes, roughly calculated. So that way that's very handy, because you will need to know a certain point where you can rest, certain points where you find it safe to sleep, and that's a way to calculate this. Like I said, it's more in depth than just going to say that's that direction. Yeah, because you will need time to set up a campfire or how do you say this? Your shelters or a tent. That's very important, because you do not want to build those things when the sun is down. It will make it more difficult, and it will take energy if you use flashlights. So that's is something you need to calculate. What you also can do is I will show you this now in the clip, is to calculate how much daylight you have while navigating through somewhere. You can do this with stretching your arm and counting fingers with the sun, between the sun and horizon. I will show you now in this clip. Alright, tip of the day. If you want to know how much sunlight you still got, which can be important to know before you set up camp, you don't want to do that in the dark, or to know how long light you have till you need to make a fire or something. What you want to do is you look at the sun right here, and you look at the horizon, and you stretch your arm, and you look how much fingers will fit between the horizon and beneath the side of the sun. So if I look around here, that's 5 fingers plus 1, which is the underside of the sun. Each finger is 50 minutes. So I got now 1 hour and 50 minutes of daylight before the sun totally goes under, which is the tip of the day. So that was how you calculate how much daylight you will still have. Yeah, we're going further. So topical graphical map is very important, even for bug-in and bug-out situations, like I said. Another thing, if you live by a river or close to the sea, it's very handy to have and you own a boat, a canoe, or a small rowing boat. It can be very handy to have a map of waterways. If you have one of these maps, these show all the waterways that you can navigate through with a boat in Belgium. So why is this handy? yeah, because some parts you want to avoid because they have like those how do you say this? I don't know the English word, but it's the places where the ships can rise above certain areas with those locks, water locks that get them to higher areas with the ships. I don't know how they're called, but you want to avoid those if you want to get to a certain area, or you can get around it with a smaller boat and carry it through land right next to the water locks. If you have one of these, try to put them like this in a waterproof map or a piece of plastic. The same counts with regular maps. Always keep these in a waterproof container or a plastic. So if the rain or you're falling water, it doesn't get wet. That's the downside of paper maps. But yet again, if you have certain electrical devices, that can also be the tail. So always keep your navigation tools dry. So waterways, a map of waterways could be very handy. If you're going to as a refugee or a non-comeback, and you're going to another country as a refugee, like I said, it's handy to have maps of the areas where you probably will go if you plan this ahead. There is a map from another country, so that could be handy to navigate while if you're going to find asylum or just passing through for safety in another country to your bug out location or an evacuation or a refugee point. So, of other countries around you, around the place where you live, is also a very handy way to navigate. All right. Of course, yeah, navigation requires a compass. Compasses come in different sizes and qualities. This is just one of those survival compasses. It's helped me very good. It's a very good compass. It's sturdy, but with compasses, yeah, you have one of those expensive military compasses or cheap ones. Those are good. Try to get sturdy ones. Try to avoid the compasses that are made from those with those plastic how do you say this, those plastic eyes lenses and with built into a plastic and with this very flimsy piece of metal that they call the North Point. You have to be very carefully about those because yeah, those can work in the beginning, but they can lose their magnetizing very fast. They are not that calculate not that how do you say this? Yeah, they're not that precise, is what I'm trying to say, and they can break easily. So just get a regular good compass. It doesn't have to be top notch, most expensive one, but just a regular sturdy one from metal will get you far away and will serve you very well. Yeah, so that's something you can do. There are several different ways to improvise a compass or look around to see how the where the north is. I will show you a few examples for this in the next clips. So another way to make an improvised compass is by taking some piece of ferrometal. What does ferrometal mean? It means that it's iron that can be magnetized. So be very careful if you take a piece of metal that is non or well ferro metal. So watch out for that. It could be a nail like this, or a piece of straightened out wire metal that you find, and you take one side of it and you rub it across your clothing, hair, woolen clothing or something else to magnetize it. You can also magnetize it by taking a battery and making with metal wire a coil around one part of the piece of metal, and that way you can also magnetize it. I think that will be sufficient. You take something like a leaf. I take 2 leaves because otherwise it will sink. And then you put it onto a water source, and that way I hope it will float. Put it a little bit on the side so it has a chance to turn. Oh, and let's see what will happen. Let's start to turn. Yeah, it's maybe a slow process, but it's starting to turn. it seems to be stopped now. So if we can see it with the compass, yeah, it's in the same direction. So yeah, if it's not too much wind, it's kind of in the same situation. So that's a way to make an improvised compass when you're in the wild. All right, now we're going to determine where is the north and where is the south, and we're going to do this by a simple trick. You put a stick into the ground, and you have the end point of the shadow. What we're going to do now is wait for 50 minutes till the sun goes a little bit further. We're going to place this stick right here. That is our starting point, and over 50 minutes we will know where the other line is, so we will wait for that. So as you can see, we started with this point, now it ended at this point. We put a line between those two. That is the west, that is the east, so straight ahead is the north. Like we can see with this compass, the north is now over there, and that's a way after 50 minutes you can know where the north is with this simple shadow trick. So another way to find out where the north is actually very simple. If you know what time it is, you can calculate. You can try to calculate where the north is. Now it's almost like 5 hours, so the sun will go down very soon. So that means it will go down in the west. The sun goes up at the morning in the east. It's on that highest point in the noon in the south. So I know that over there where the sun now is right about the west. There is the east, so that must be the south. So over there is the north. That way, if you know the time, like with your cell phone or a watch, you can, or a clock tower of a church, you can know calculate what direction east or west and south and north is. So that's very handy to know. This is just another simple way to find directions, especially in villages, on the countryside or urban areas. It's one of those direct weather. Yeah, I don't know what they call it in English, but usually they call it weather roosters, which are usually seen on perhaps private property like here, so you can find the north, so you can navigate on that. Or churches often have these kind of things, like weather roosters on top of the bell towers, or some government buildings. So that's another thing to look out for when you're trying to navigate and you do not have a compass. So those were several ways how you can find the north to navigate through areas in improvised ways. So that's very handy. There are several other ways you can do that I will have not shown here yet. Several ways are like, these are not that precise, but like moss usually grows to the north, and you can also find the south by looking at trees and plants. The side that get the most sun is usually the south sides, so those are more greener and look more fresh than the other side of certain trees or bushes or something else. These are not precise, but it's just some way to do that. Another way is that I have not shown because I do not own a wristwatch. Is you take a watch, just a regular watch, not an electrical one, and you hold how does it went? You hold the small point to the sun, and everything between that and 12 hours, that is south. So that's another way to calculate the north, if I'm not mistaken, because yeah, I'm kind of stupid that way sometimes. So other ways to navigate are just very simple ways. I know it might sound stupid, but just ask for directions. Yeah, just go to someone and ask where is that way. If it's a local person, he will tell you more accurate than somebody else who's just passing through. So yeah, it's just simple. Ask the way. Don't be ashamed for it, but also be aware, because some people can be dicks and they can say, if you have to go that way, they can say, oh, you have to go that way. So watch out if you encounter some asshole, is what I'm trying to say. Or if they are just, perhaps they are xenophobic and they will not like refugees, and you're on your bug out, they can deliberately send you the wrong way. that's something you need to watch out for. But most people will tell you just the right way. So that's another way you can do. Another way is just reading signs. But there is a problem with this. You can read the signs, yeah, you can find your direction, that no problem. But there are certain situations where this can be a problem because some areas do not have that many signs, and it's not always precise where you will be going because the sign could be around villages. So that's something you will need to pre-plan for if you like on a map before you can navigate through that with some knowledge is power. Another thing is during wartime, be skeptical about road signs because during war, it happened in almost every war that most that the resistance fighters, the army, the friendly forces armies, or even enemy forces, just put how do you say this? They took they took the round they turned the signs or they took the signs off just to confuse the enemy so they will not get into where they have to be. It's some sort of sabotage. So during war, be very skeptical and very wary about this little fact if you're trying to navigate. All right. Another way to find your to navigate is just some other tools. Just your cell phone. Most cell phones have some GPS function, but you do not always have internet connection or a signal, and that can make it very difficult for some apps or GPS ways on the phone to navigate. So what you can do is try to get offline maps, download maps from the or take download maps so you can navigate through it with some offline maps, or you can take pictures of just regular maps before you plan your bug out. You can take a picture. You can on your computer drown out your several bug out locations, and you can just look at the picture, zoom in, and try to navigate that way to your bug out location. It's just a very good way to have a. It's empowering as long as you have battery. So try to have a source to power up your cell phone and try to not to break it. Those are especially sensitive, and see that the battery is always loaded because perhaps you need to find your way back. And yeah, the with a flat battery, it's kind of hard. GPS is also one of those handheld GPSs. You can you also use the GPS from a car. So I will show you in a minute. But you can just have one of those travel GPSs that you can handheld. Be very carefully about batteries because yeah, I have been several times without batteries or flat batteries because of the cold or because I was stupid and forgot to get full charged batteries. So that's something that could happen with this one, but it's a very compact and good way for a short bug out for a short bug out. So handheld GPS, yeah, it's kind of worth it. Depends on your preferences and your planning. But I have this one, but I would prefer to use a map than this thing. Although this thing can be very handy, I just find the map more reliable than a GPS because yeah, map can only be tiered or get wet. So as long as that doesn't happen, I will choose the map above this. All right. Other ways to navigate. Just I will show you in the next clips several ways to if you're lost in the woods or somewhere else, how to find civilization, villages, and such. So just an easy way. All right. This is a bus stop, and the advantage of a bus stop is usually it has maps like this, and that way you can take a picture of just look around to see where you're at. So usually the bus stop also says where you are. So like you can see, it could be a very handy way to navigate. So if you're kind of lost and you want to know a certain mark to orientate yourself on, well, there are different ways. Like here you can see this is just countryside of Belgium. But if you know that the closest village nearby has a church, and you look around, There you can see the top of the church, and that way you can orientate where you should go to the next place. So it should not only be a church, but it can also be just something like a government building, a monument, or something like a tall building that you can orientate, something that stands on a map and that you can see from far away and recognize. So that way you can orientate yourself and navigate around without the use of a map. So another way to find to navigate during a bug out situation or shit hit the fan is finding an abandoned car, smash the window open or see if it's open. And two ways you can find a way to navigate. First of all, a lot of cars have like these road maps that you can find in them, usually to the side, close to the driver, or in the glove compartment. And another way is just most cars now have something like a GPS system that you can you can connect to the battery, or yeah, if you can do it on an improvised way. But those are two ways that you can navigate by use of abandoned cars. So if you walk along a waterway like a river or something smaller, if you're lost and you want to find a civilization or a village, always follow the river, because people tend to use near the rivers. So if you're lost and you follow it, eventually you will come upon some sort of people or village eventually. So whether you're in nature or in a countryside or a city, if you have railroads, it always leads to stations, railroad crossings, and other places of civilization. So even if you're in the wild and you find an old abandoned railroad track, try to keep following it, and eventually you will find some recognized point or civilization, or at least the direction to civilization. So some might sound stupid, but these were several ways to navigate when you're lost, or yeah, such. So I hope I didn't forget anything. Yeah, there are several other ways. Perhaps leave it in the comments. Please subscribe. It would help. It would help me a lot. And if you have some other ideas to learn to help with your navigation, or some way to train your navigation skills, just oh yeah, perhaps this is one thing I almost forgot. Just do it by memory. Before you're going on a bug out, train yourself in going to the bug out location by foot and try to memorize the way to it, and also try to learn other how do you say this, other detours in case there is the bridge collapsed, there are checkpoints, the highways are packed. Try to try to go to alternative routes when you're going to your bug out location, just by memory. And that's also perhaps handy, because yeah, if somebody else find your map and find something crossed, bug out location, food here, yeah, that could be very dangerous for yourself. So try to train yourself, and also other members that will go on your bug out location, to do it by memory. That's something I probably forgot. So yeah, I will probably forget on some other things, but these are the things that went to mind, just to give you some ideas. I hope it will help you. So yet again, please subscribe and leave a like, reactions with some ideas so I can learn from it. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.